Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Happy Friday. It is April the 19th, 2024. Welcome back to episode number 7 of Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks with Bryce. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a crazy, crazy day and time that we are living in. So, being as Bryce makes his living in understanding the difference between conspiracy and theory, this is why we get together every Friday night to kind of mock and laugh a little bit of at a little bit of the insanity and kind of find a little bit of common ground that you guys can bank on and what you guys can do about it from wherever you are with whatever you have, wherever you're at. So, welcome back, Bryce. Episode number 7. For everybody else that's out there, I want you to know that this is unscripted, absolutely unrehearsed. You you have as much of an idea about what could happen or what could come across the table here tonight as I do. We're going to, as we go here, be plugging in different things to carry on from the weeks before. I know that Bryce has got some questions that have come up since last week's show. We'll bring them up here in a little bit, but we're going to start with laughing and mocking and a little bit of having fun at Trudeau's expense over his absolutely what could only be described as a suicide pill for the Liberal Party, the latest budget release or announcement that they have made, which, in spite of having a bunch of money for the mercenary media, is so terrible that even CTV and the legacy media guys are starting to throw Trudeau under the bus. So might as well start with that. That is the elephant in everybody's room this week is the budget, Bryce. What do you make of some of this that's as people are starting to digest it, people are starting to understand kind of some of the gobbledygook and what they're trying to pull over on people's eyes. What do you make of this one? The latest installment of the Insanity is Unsustainable Brigade.
Yeah, well, I think pictures are worth 1,000 words. So why don't we just start with that? I'll just share my screen real quick here, and I'll show you what I think of this.
Well,
Advanced communism creates problems. Externalize the blame and then propose communist solution. And so there's a couple things in this budget that I think really need to be mentioned. And the first and the most obvious is we are now paying more on the interest of our debt than on healthcare and the military individually. So like the amount we're paying on for the interest now equals more than what we spend on the military and on the budget. I mean healthcare, which is an absolute absurdity.
that's just the interest.
Yeah, just the
Just
interest.
the interest.
Yeah.
It, and on programs that not a single Canadian is actually asking for, or that can with any level of intellectual honesty say Canada actually needs. This is just what they're proposing to do to this. And this is just me being the illiterate, northern Alberta swamp donkey that I am. I see the immediate response in the media of investors fleeing as fast as they can from Canada at the mere thought of what Trudeau intends to do with this budget. Is that a fair assessment of the immediate reaction that I'm seeing in the last couple of days? Is that for real?
Yeah, 100%. And because you got to understand, so this is another thing. There's about a half dozen different things about this budget that are just absolutely insane. And Chrystia Freeland had a straight face and said all of this absolute nonsense. So there isn't a lot of people that I can say I absolutely despise, but she and he are definitely two of them for this reason, because they just lie through their teeth, and every time they open their mouth, it's something bad for us. So on top of the companies that now don't want to invest because of the increase in the capital gains tax, which goes up from 50% to 66.7% over 250 grand. We also have now the government essentially bailing out the mortgage, the real estate market in all but name. And so Adrian Spitters, guy that was on here before with us many moons ago now, he did kind of a deep dive into this, and basically what they're doing is they gave about $30 billion to CMHC to go and buy a whole bunch of toxic assets that are now underwater because these guys ridiculous amounts of carbon tax and incompetence and corruption and everything else. So the budget is kind of a blaring warning sign that if we don't kick these idiots out of our country, they're going to destroy it.
Uh, I think the last people getting that memo are actually Canadians. I think that's by design. And then that comes back to again this Chairman Mao Justin, and the problem
True Mao.
reaction, the problem reaction solution that they keep going back to the well on this. But I think that well has kind of run dry. In the to keep this, in the vein of mocking these idiots. And guys, please give us a share, hit the thumbs up, whatever platform you're watching this from. I had a chat with a fellow named Jason Goodman today in the States for about 45 minutes, and he's going, how come I've never heard of you guys? What is going on in Canada? And that's why we are so insanely censored. People want to know what we're talking about, what's going on. So guys, we depend on you. We're doing this together. So please give this a share and a like, guys, and subscribe. Make sure that you're subscribed. I know the notifications are not going out. We're doing what we can with creating platforms outside of this, but we still depend on you guys for all of this for now. But the the money is the pattern, the same thing. Americans are seeing it happening there with the printing of money, the insanely wasteful spending here in this budget. I think there was another $50 million for sports. I mean, that's just insane. I was listening to reports today about the sham and fraud that AI is, and $1.4 billion for this. All of these things is creating an environment where even Trudeau's henchmen are scared to stick their nose out and address the public, and just if all they've got is Trudeau and Freeland's talking points, I think that they're in dire trouble. There's word, rumor, election or not, Trudeau's done. The party, he doesn't have the confidence of the party or the willing support anymore. People are starting to raise their noses up and saying, "Yeah, we'll take over. We'll clean up this mess." Hearing different names: Dominic LeBlanc, Freeland, Mark Carney.
Yeah, right.
The delusional universe that these guys live in, I can absolutely see them.
Oh yeah. Oh, I had to believe they're all over. It'd be like, hey, all of those problems that we created for you. Well, just let me that created them come and fix that for you. Nah, get out of here, bro.
I predicted almost a year ago that Freeland would be the one to step up and take over. She was already projecting and setting herself up as the responsible adult in the room whenever it comes to dealing with, well, you and I mean, this is why we live in this universe. We don't buy any of that propaganda, but you can see it in the optics. But I think that there's another curveball or a whole bunch of other curveballs actually being thrown into all of this. Is the war in Ukraine absolutely coming apart at the seams. There is no conflict left there. It is literally
seen
a
that
rout,
happening.
Right? What did people expect? A quick update on that, for people that aren't able to catch what's really going on out there. It's an absolute disaster since the terrorist attack in Moscow. Putin is really pissed, and he's doing what he avoided doing for the longest time, and he is actually doing the things that America would have done if they were in a conflict a long time ago. He is turning the lights on, turning them back into the Stone Age. The entire eastern side of the Ukraine is basically going back to the Stone Age. There is nothing left in the tank. Zelensky is crying, "Why won't America do for me what they're doing for Israel?" Well, that's never going to happen. And now America is getting stretched, being forced to decide which they want to remain priority, and it's not Ukraine, so that's all coming apart, and that's really kind of the linchpin for the the. I don't I searched for the right word for this, Bryce. It's not the cabal, it's not the elite, it's not exactly, it's the controllers that control the controllers, and I haven't
The
really got the
oligarchy.
right word for that, but
The oligarchy is what I
the
said.
oligarchy, the network of the highest pinnacle of the oligarchies are in panic mode, straight up panic mode across the board, and I don't think anybody really has an idea what they're doing, because all they have is programming and their plan, their agenda, and it's coming apart at the seams
Hmm.
everywhere. I look, it's like that, and I mean, that makes it dangerous times, because wounded, dumb animals do stupid things, and um, is this maybe one of those stupid things, an overreaction in our governing body, thinking that we would actually uh, swallow all of this, or is this maybe something that's designed to try to turn us into that rabid, feral, dangerous community of Canadians that the RCMP was trying to project? Because I don't think anybody's buying that one either.
No. I honestly think that this decade is going to be an IQ test, and you only pass if you survive, because the amount of stuff that's happening. Sorry, my cat's just leaving. So the amount of stuff that's happening this decade, I mean, even in this week, I mean, is just astronomical compared to days gone by, and that's intentional, right? These idiots at the top think that they can just steamroll us into submission, and I've said this a lot, and I think a lot of people have finally gotten to the point where they're starting to say as well, enough is enough. And once you hit that point, that like enough is enough, and I hit this quite a few years ago, and so this is why I'm able to speak like this on a consistent basis without fear, because I just don't care anymore. I've been pushed to the breaking point, and now I'm pushing back, because like I don't take that sort of disrespect from anybody. The least of all these unelected morons from the other side of the planet that think they can control us, take all of our stuff, and then hope that we're happy about it. And so the fear that I think they have, and I think I've said this before, is that they fear us getting organized and having the actual ability to oppose what they want and what they're doing, right? And there's the perfect example, right? Is the Japanese. So they're actually rioting in the streets pretty much, and Japanese don't do that at all ever, because of the effects of the vaccines on their
Yeah,
population.
they that's a whole other story that I haven't really covered here yet. I've gotten some information from Japan and what's going on over there, and it's absolutely terrifying. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of afraid to tell the world, as horrible and as truthful as it is, or might be. We haven't got a way of corroborating it, but you're right. This stuff that's happening elsewhere in the world is having a major impact. Japan is coming apart at the seams, like a whole lot of other nations, based on what their governments did during this uh, in this global event that they called COVID, but was something entirely different.
Yeah, and they're coming. It's coming apart in a couple different ways. So there's the social and medical. There is the geopolitical. There is the macroeconomic, and then there is the logistical and physical. And so all of these systems, and like I can't remember if I said this last week, but I'll say it again if I didn't. I like to use the analogy of a spider web. You're in the center, and everything around you is connected, and your part in society, and how you connect with society. You can go in any direction, right? But at the edge of that spider web, you have connections to, you know, the physical reality that is holding that spider web up when you see it, right? And you can take out a whole bunch of areas in the center of that spider web, and it's fine. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't affect you too much. But if you take out one of the pillars around the edges that it's holding everything down, it wipes out the entire spider web. instantly, and that is what the risk of things happening now is, because of the US dollar collapse that's coming, de-dollarization, World War III, obviously, and central bank digital currencies. So you got financial, you got I won't say ecological, because although that is a problem, it's not one of the major things that's just going to wipe us out like that. All of these things put together, basically, and if we don't have a, a leadership apparatus and people that are part of it that can prevent some of these insane things happening, they just continue to get worse. And because we have such a moron in charge of our country right now that's just actively destroying it, and like, I can't even say that this is just raw incompetence anymore. There's just no
No,
way. You can't
there's
be this stupid. You can't be this mathematically illiterate. It has to be intentional, because everybody could do math. Like, everybody looked at this budget and were like, "You guys are idiots." And he's even getting called out, like you were saying, by CTV, the people that he paid more money in this budget to.
the billions of dollars that they have flushed into the propaganda, that, as well as the censorship, the capture of the in the of the judiciary and the literally policy making systems of the country in order to do this has been obviously an absolute waste, a burning of taxpayers' stolen dollars, because you cannot hide the truth. And whether it's realized by us or somebody else, sooner or later, somebody is coming with the truth. And we've done an impressive job, I think, in certain ways in this country. Although the learning curve that we've had to go through has been monumental. And make no mistake, we're for anybody out there, we've been at war for a long time. It's just in a different capacity. It's been an information war, a war of the voices, but against the voices. But it's gotten to the point where it's beyond people's capacity to even pretend like it doesn't affect them anymore. I I get a call the other night, and this kind of ties back into the budget situation as well. I get a call the other night from somebody that just realized that with all of this comes the government involvement and endorsing and supporting, and turning into a state of bureaucracy, Sharia mortgages,
Yeah.
in
Insane.
like um
It's not a Muslim country, bro. What are you talking about? That people just don't have to pay interest? Are you kidding me, bro? So I guess and the solution here is like, okay, well, we'll use your stupid rules against you. I guess I'm Muslim now. Sign me up, bro.
well, in this is where, you know how can we blame them when we accept this? What is this doing with 1 million people coming into the country every 6 months? And how many of them are those people exactly that are now going to be getting a leg up with interest-free homes for all of the houses that he is, and programs that he's now stealing or printing money to build homes for? Who's the only people that are going to be able to afford them? Those that qualify for Sharia. To me, this is an economic attack on Canadians, plain and simple. And if we don't do something, I don't want to say drastic in the sense of to encourage anybody to lose their marbles and go and do something stupid. But if we don't start putting away some of the petty things that we're wasting our energy on and get to work collectively on some bigger issues, this is why they continue to get away with this. Exactly as I was told by a federal politician, oh, we whirl through implied consent. If you don't say no loud enough, then you mean yes.
Yeah, exactly. And this should be something that you should be burned into your brain. Silence is compliance. If you don't say anything and you don't do anything, nothing happens, and they do. Well, you don't be able to stop them, and they're gonna do whatever they feel they need to or want to achieve whatever their agenda is. And I kind of go back to the that framework that I mentioned a few episodes ago: the questions, answers, actions, results. Right, that framework. Right, they've given us a result that we don't like, right? So, what are the questions that we need to ask? What answers do we need to get to take the actions necessary to stop that from happening? And if you could bring up my screen again really quick, all of the things that Justin Trudeau has doing basically boils down to these 8 things in some way, shape, or form to destabilize and diminish the ability for people to stand on their own 2 feet. Communism requires that you are reliant on the state, and every single policy that he has put forward has been with the express purpose to control something or somebody for some reason. Everything. And so I use this now as like a just a blanket statement of the Canadian Communist Party, which is the NDP and the Liberals working together, because Jagmeet Singh just literally mirrors every single day whatever nonsense Justin Trudeau does. Says, "Oh, we got to stop the blah blah blah." Just shut up, dude. Just shut up. Like and Pierre actually this week said on a talk
Finally,
radio, yeah, finally that he's just in it for his pension, which he is. Like that's an absolute dereliction of duty at the very minimum, if not things far worse than that, right? And the thing that I think is one of the most egregious things that has been put forth by this government, and it's not so much in this budget, but it's just one of the things that's come out this year, is the hate speech laws, which is C-63. And everybody, I encourage everybody to go and look at this. But this is essentially what it does, right? Bill 63, or the Online Help Side, adds the definition of hatred to the criminal code consistent with the Supreme Court. And somewhere in here, I'll create blah blah blah. Somebody can pause it and read through this, but somewhere in here it basically says that if you're convicted of this, they have the option to indefinitely detain you for mean words on the internet. An absolute assault on free speech, an absolute assault on Canadians, and indefinite detention. Like, we have people that are pedophiles, we have people that do murder, trafficking, those idiots that just stole all the gold are walking free right now. But
after
mean
being
words
caught
on the
not just
internet,
stealing the
yeah,
gold, but buying illegal weapons,
yeah,
and they're back on the street. But the Coots boys, completely knocked up, framed in jail for 2 years, for political optics. This
yeah.
is
It's an absurdity, and this is why I speak like this, because I've had enough. This is bullshit at this point. Like, what are we gonna do about this, right? And so I go back to the same point that I make a lot, is that we got to get loud and we got to get involved, right? Because it's only people that are organized and have momentum and are a group of people that are gonna prevent crazy stuff like this from happening. You have to get involved with your community wherever you physically live. You better be on the phone or talking to people and making moves and making plans with people to stop this shit, because if you're not, we're all going to lose. Because that's what
well,
I'm doing. I'm all about this now.
well, and this is where the point of us getting together each week and going over this, because it's hammering home the things we need to do. We need to look after ourselves. I mean, I went grocery shopping, or tried to, the other day, and I ended up doubling up on KD. Right? I mean, because that's what that's like, and just kind of look after yourselves right now, because this insanity is only going to escalate. It's only going to start, picking up speed. The cost of groceries is going to go up. Everything is going to accelerate and keep going up. The price of getting your your dollar is only going to buy half as much in a month as it is right now. And now is why you need to be looking at alternatives. A month from now, that dollar that you spent on silver is going to be worth 4 times as much as it is right now, even. So we don't want to everybody to know these are the things that we're identifying, because you need to start heading in the right direction if you're not already. And if you are, then you need to find your community. It is now bug out time. Plan to get plugged into the people that have the resources when this charade
Guilt.
comes apart, are going to be able to step in and fill in the gaps and the blanks for the things. And we it's prep time for real.
Yeah.
Uh,
And on that note, I just spent a whole bunch of money buying resources and a whole bunch of other stuff, and I bought about 800 pounds of food. And so, like, I've got about a year of food already. I'm going for like 3 years now because I'm not like, I don't know how bad this is going to get, but I know that people around this world. So, I don't know if you're. I'm sure that many do, but probably not everybody. So there's the thing called the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Mhm.
Which were down in Georgia. There's these big monolithic pieces of granite that had, I think, in 8 different languages, these I want to say the commandments, but they're essentially like these requirements or minimums for humanity to be flourishing. And one of the things on that, on the first thing actually, was keep humanity under 500 million. Well,
Yeah.
on a planet of humans with 8 billion people, somebody came to the conclusion of we should kill the vast majority of them, right? So there's people on this planet that want us dead, because I'm not part of that cool kid crew of 500 mil. You're probably not either, and probably not nobody watching this is either, right? So if there's people that are going to take their ideas to the extreme of I got to kill everybody on the planet pretty much instead of the slaves of the cool kid crew that I belong to, I mean that's an act of war, right? And so we are
People
we
are
are
getting
now.
desperate out there. I mean, like, was two Americans in the last couple of weeks that have lit themselves on fire to make a point. Like one today outside of Trump's court case.
Mhm.
Like, I
Insane.
mean, those are the signs that your society, things that are that you take for granted as normal, are pretty much at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
And this is you don't have to go far back in history to see this. They didn't let us see it happen in Venezuela, but exactly what happened in Venezuela happened when Pol Pot took over. It happened when Chairman Mao took over, when Stalin took over, when Castro
Trudeau
took
took over.
over, through every dictatorship and tyranny and communist regime altogether. It has been the exact same thing, and these warnings. That's what's out here right now for with these kinds of things, and people are going to continue to get more and more desperate. And those that are smart and have strength of community and
Yeah.
resources and assets will be in Canada, I believe, better off than in some other places. Uh, but this is the time to start making some of those choices. Do you really need to take that holiday in the Bahamas this year? Because you might want to think about spending it elsewhere. The money, I mean.
Yeah, 100%. And this is why I talk about these things, is that the preparation now that you have, this is your essentially last opportunity to really put plans into place, build a community, work with other people. And this is a good point. Exactly. I saw that too. This is happening sooner or later. Like the banks that collapsed last year were essentially papered over, right? And I don't know if they're going to have the ability to do another bailout. They're probably going to do a bail in. There's so Adrian talked a little bit about this, and he doesn't think that they're going to collapse the economy yet because they still have a war to fight. So it might not happen this year, but I think the cracks are going to be showing, and I think there's going to be fallout from the problems in the system 100% this year, because you just can't have this level of inflation go for this long. It's unsustainable, right? People are already broke, right? So one of the big things that happened before the GFC, or the Great Financial Crisis, in 2007, is that the three things spiked, which is unemployment went up, delinquencies for mortgages went up, and credit card debt went up. And all three of those things have skyrocketed in the last couple of months because people are out of money, and it's been taken by these idiots in our government that are
That's
just
the wealth
destroying it.
redistribution. These
100%.
guys these
100%.
guys only exist and get promoted for their ability to extract your wealth living future. That's their only point in purpose, and in my personal opinion, that's the whole point of globalism. Globalists is extracting the wealth and resources. They're mining you for every penny that you've got out there, literally.
Yeah.
And that's where this little catchphrase that I've been picked up is the it's so true. The cure for globalism is localism, and it's 100% safe and effective.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
True story.
And we're actually really lucky in Canada, is that we have everything that we need. We are totally self.
Everything.
We have all the water, we have all the soil, we have all the farm, we have all the machinery, we have all of the industry, resources, money, time, people. We have everything that we need to be totally self sufficient. We have all the space that we need. We're the second biggest country on the planet, right? Everything we need, we have.
The
right? But it's
resource
been
value per capita, we should be based on that, as if they were bankrolling or lending Canada money based on resources value versus the population, we would be the wealthiest person per capita country on the planet, even richer than Saudi Arabia, UAE, all of
yeah.
those countries. You should be your kids should be choosing the color of their Bugattis when they graduate high school, not wondering can they afford a bus pass. But there's another comment here I wanted to pull up here. There's a lot of people that are waiting for the collapse and back to the gold standard, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are going to get left behind when this happens. In the part of the conflict stuff, and this is something that I wanted to make a point of as well. As well. Um, Although the battle in Ukraine is all but over, the only thing that's left to end is the dying of the people that are on the ground. And the sad part about the war like that is it's old rich men that are only doing it to create money and to steal money from you. So the same thing has been going on in the Middle East, and I really want people to think about this. They keep taking your money to start and fight the wars, buy the bullets, build the bombs that blow up the Middle East for 40 years so that there is no place left for those people to go. So now you have to take them into your backyards, your cities, your towns, your neighborhoods, to the point where there's soon going to be more of them than there are of us. And they are the ones that are given all of the incentives to make this their country, whether they do or not. They're given the incentives while you are being starved and bled out of your country. That is the cycle that Canada is actually experiencing. And this is not racist. It's not anti anybody. This is pro Canada here. It's time to pull an Iceland.
Yeah, exactly. And what was my point I was going to make? Oh yeah. So and I think this perfectly encapsulates the absolute absurdity of what we're facing, right? So Justin Trudeau specifically has taken billions of our dollars to give to another country to get for them to buy weapons and ammunition for them to fight for their border and their people on the other side of the planet, while we are not allowed to do the exact same thing here in our country with our money at our discretion. What an absolute absurdity, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole gun debate is stupid. Like, do I have the ability to protect myself or not? In Canada, you don't. In the US,
Nope.
you do. They have a Second Amendment, right? But for them to go ahead and say you can't have any guns, but I'm going to take your money and buy other people guns
But
with your money so they can
but
defend themselves is stupid.
But if you identify, or pardon me, or are indigenous Indian, you can have an AR-15, no
Yeah,
problem.
it's it's racist, it's stupid, it's divisive, it's everything that's wrong with the left, and this is why I left the left because I used to lean left, right? I voted for the left multiple times in my younger years, and there's an old saying that if you don't have a heart, if you're not liberal when you're 20, you don't have a heart, and if you're not a conservative by the time you're 40, you don't have a brain, right? It's kind of funny, but kind of true. And I'm creeping up on 40 right now, and now I'm technically a conservative, even though I think of myself as a centrist, because the people on the left are insane and stupid, right? And I grew up with a lot of people on the right saying really insane stuff. But now it's all of the left people that are literally communists in all but name. They don't even know. They're advocating for these policies and they're advocating for these ideas that are self-destructive. They're just so stupid. They just don't even know, and you can't even have a discussion with them because they don't know how dumb they are. It's like arguing with somebody that's a flat earther. They just don't even understand enough about the world around them to have a logical argument about reality.
It's all
It's
about the virtue signal and the social credit points that they get, even though it's not official. That's what they function on. Their social ranking, their social value, how they see the world is all based on this social justice warrior woke mindset plague culture. And unfortunately, when we look at the only parameters that you can really look at to even get a barometer or a measuring stick for change is not based on because of people believe in politics or the parties, but you can see other factors in there. The disparity, for example, the fact that 40% of the people absolutely don't involve them, so they don't bother to vote. Why bother? It's a joke, it's a fraud. What that tells me is there's people that see through it. There is nothing there to take part in. So that means 60%. Trudeau won on what, 29% of the
Yes,
60%.
ridiculous like
So
that.
29% of the people are either benefiting or are beyond redemption in the intellectual department. So the problem isn't that it's those 29% that have so much power. It's that the other 71% cannot find one dang thing to agree upon to force into happening.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It is us. We are the fault. We are the reason because we keep biting on all of this emotional crack candy of getting pissed at this or that or the other thing and finding a bazillion things to argue about and not one thing to sustain an argument against. And this is where we're at this critical point in our history coming up here where every politician is dialed into what is the scent, what is the political wind bring, what do they smell coming. They have to smell us coming with a demand to an end to this thievery, and that, taking a look at models like what Iceland did. And, I'm going to start using that a lot more because they actually did what Canadians need to do to
Yeah.
ultimately end all of this. Everybody wants an easy
Arrest
button.
them.
There's only one easy button, and this conversation is absolutely going to be forced in the public space, and it's inevitable. And I'll tell you why. Because Quebec is going to make this conversation happen.
Hmm.
Whether Canadians like it or not, the discussion of the last Quebec referendum for independence is going to come up again. How is it that Quebec gets to continuously repeat over the last 50 years this question of them becoming their own country? Well, Danielle Smith is kind of taking a page out of Quebec's book.
Rightly so.
Everybody's been hearing her lately saying, well, it worked for Quebec. We're going to do it too. Well, what happens when the next major conversation is Quebec wanting to leave Canada and Danielle Smith and the people that are already fed up with Canada go, oh, well, if it works for them, it can work for us too. And at that point there, Canada people will understand what I'm talking about when I refer to pulling an Iceland. And that means going through the only recognized process to achieving sovereignty is through the process of constitutional conventions, which
Yeah.
Canada has never ever done. So that is, in fact, the only easy button is to go through the process, do the work that becomes recognized, so that 1, 10, all of us can actually be countries. But it's Quebec that's going to force this conversation, whether people like it or not. And people can call me conspiracy theorist all they bloody well wants to. This is the foundation of why I say that there is no solution within our current political system. We either have to fix the political system we have, or we're going to be forced to adopt something else, whether that is something the globalists have planned for us under their digital AI capture, or whether it's at some point the systems as we know them are coming apart, and it's up to us to start thinking about how we want to put them back together, or whether we're going to surrender to how they want to put it back together.
100%. So in either way, in either case, but by globalist or by us, Canadian citizens, our system is being upgraded. In one sense, it's being upgraded to a dystopian nightmare that's going to destroy everybody and everything, or we have to go another direction. Say, hey, I want this. I want a constitutional republic that forces everybody to apply laws equally. And even the constitutional republic of the U.S. is an absolute farce at this point. You got a basically a guy that's got one foot in the grave and can't even put sentences together that's in charge of this nonsense. And people are still like, that's my boy. And you got Alejandro Mayorkas. So I don't know if anybody saw this, but so
Yeah.
Mayorkas is this moron down in the US. He's a literal, the definition of treason. He disregarded the entire criminal code when in regards to immigration, brought people in, lied to Congress, and has done everything in his power, which is considerable, to make sure that the border was open. They brought more people in and destabilized the U.S. That is the literal definition of treason, when you are taking actions against your country that you swore an oath to, right? And I could say the same thing about many other people, but I won't for now. But here's the straight goods: is that the Democrats in the U.S. refuse to have a trial, right? And this has always happened in the U.S. So, like, Ted Cruz, oddly enough, said a whole big long speech about the what's the word? Not the history, the timeline of the impeachment in the U.S. and what the Senate was supposed to do, and they refused to have the trial. So every single Democrat that was in the Senate basically said they agree with and help facilitate that illegal immigration that is destroying the U.S. and to a certain extent Canada. But this is happening all across the Western world. This is why I want to bring this point home, in the sense that this is not a localized phenomenon. This is a global war against the West, because we are the only people. So Vladimir Putin put it perfectly. Oddly enough, I'm quoting Putin now. He called us the golden billion, that we've had a golden spoon in our mouth since we were born, living in the West on this super high level of I don't want to say economic stance, but like is super high level of life compared to the vast majority of human history and the greater developing world, right? And we have taken it for granted, and we are now losing it because of that, taking it for granted. So now we all have a choice: is that, are we going to stand up and protect what we were born with and want for everybody and ourselves? Are we going to defend that? Are we going to take those actions necessary to do so, or are we going to lose it? And we are absolutely in the position right now where we will lose it if we don't do something about it.
It's the Western homogeny. That's that hegemony, whatever, however you enunciate that. But the level of wealth that the Western societies have been able to gather in such a short period of time is unprecedented in human history. And this freedom, we think that freedom and life living as we know it is, has been like this for forever. No, this is a really recent phenomenon in history where life is this good and this free as we know it. And the rest of the world, which has a much longer memory in most of those countries than we have over here in the West, they're not happy with it, and they're coming for what we have. They want what we've got. They really don't care whatsoever about what happens to us here as individuals. They don't care. They're coming for what we have, and we have governments that are committing crimes to facilitate exactly that happening. And this is whether it's one or all of them. None of them are innocent, and they're 100% complicit in actual crimes, and we have got to start to embrace the vernacular of what it's going to take to not just shed a light on it, but taking the path to accountability through transparency. Otherwise, we don't get through this, and that's coming. These guys have had 90 years of deception to set their plan in Canada.
But enough is enough. Screw 'em.
Enough is enough. And that changes the instant enough of us decide to say no.
100%. Could you bring up LC2's comment?
Which one?
The recent one on Rumble. Yeah, that one. So I agree. And so this is a good point that I agree with, actually. So I didn't grow up with a silver spoon or a golden spoon in my mouth either. I grew up poor, very poor. I was almost homeless multiple times when I was growing up. But the point that was being made by Putin and myself, oddly enough, I agree with him in this, is that when you compare what we have and what our living standard is, like, you have people at downtown Vancouver that are homeless and druggies that still live a better life than subsistence people in the vast amount of sub-Saharan Africa and in most places in China. Like, there's some horrific places on this planet that there is genocide, there is organ harvesting from China.
Living poor here is still living like royalty in 2/3 of the planet.
100%. That's what I mean, is that we are extremely lucky in Canada that we got blessed by the chances of where we were born to be
Yeah.
experiencing the life that we've lived. And I've never taken that for granted, and I hope most of you haven't either. But now we are at the point where we're gonna lose it unless we do something about it, right? And
I think a lot of people have been beaten to submission and confusion, the deer in the headlight, because they've been assaulted with terms, because we're here in Canada, white privilege. No, 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 no. May have
no,
been born into Canada privilege,
yeah,
but that does not has nothing to do with accepting their abuse. And if anybody is trying to throw that kind of bunk on you, differentiate that. I grew up taking large sandwiches to school on homemade bread because that was all we could afford. So to hell with anybody else thinking that, and I will defend what my family has invested 150 years into building here in Canada.
yeah,
So it's
same,
time for us to figure out how to do that, and instead of you know. Wasting so much of our energy, effort, and resources into arguing and fighting the nonsense, because that's what gives it life. Is that so? Reestablishing our communities ourselves first, looking after self first, and establishing the communities. I'm going to keep hammering that home, and you know back to the system and the process, whether we like it or not. You're correct, it's coming apart. So why do we
yeah,
keep feeding it? Why
yeah,
do we keep feeding it when we see that it is only being abused in order to recreate or manifest more problems for us? I mean, what's rule number one when you're out of control? You let go your foot off the gas, right?
yeah,
And nobody here is letting their foot off the gas, and some people are going to be raising arguments about that in other parts of the country that are going to force the rest of the country to have the discussion whether we like it or not. um, and this and it's gonna be one that's going to bite them really really hard. I never endorsed the Wexit movement, but it was able to force people into getting educated on exactly that problem. And Quebec is going to stand up and do the same thing and educate people on a part of the problem. Why is there no accountability? Why is there nobody to answer to in any of these things? It's going to come out really really soon. And the stronger people are in their communities and in themselves, the more ability we're going to have to kick them in the butt and do it the
yeah.
way we want.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, and this is kind of my white pill too, and I mentioned this on Odessa's show today too. Is that we have everything that we need, right? So all that's standing in between us and the promised land is our inability to get organized and know what needs to be done and do it, right? So it's a three-step process of we need to figure out what needs to be done, we need to go and do it, and we need to make sure that it gets done properly. But that requires organization, right? So that's why I always try to push this idea. But I want to bring it back to something that happened this week about Arrive Scam, because this is kind of one of the best examples of of corruption that we've ever had in Canada. Better than anything else because it's so blatant and obvious, right? And so just Garnett Genet, I can't remember how to say his name.
Genius.
Genius, yeah, just call him Genius. Um, so he's been one of the couple conservative MPs that have been really breathing down the neck of these idiots on the left to try and pull information out of them, right? So Anita Anand, which was our defense secretary for some reason, like an absolute diversity hire that was absolutely useless and destroyed the military while she was in there. She's probably the one responsible for tampons in men's bathrooms. Can't give people a living wage or have stuff on the base or things that work, but hey, we get tampons in there for you. Anyway. But anyway, so her department essentially paid GC Strategies, which was the company that middleman for ArriveCan, and I've been watching this really closely because it's such a good what's the condemnation of how incompetent and how corrupt this government is, right? And so my response here is I get audited, you get audited. CRA breathes down, is always up everybody's ass about where's my money? Where is the audit for these people? Like, why haven't any of these people been audited by the CRA? Where did this money come from? How is it even possible that they have made this much money in this way? And it hasn't been tracked. Like we get, and this is why I use Miro, right? Because because there's a thought process around these things that everybody needs to understand, right? So these are the questions that come from this situation because she's essentially accused of corruption, more or less, right? Or her department is at the very least. So, did Anita Anand financially benefit from this? That's a yes or a no question. We have to investigate, right? That we should have a audit her ass, right? Were unfair practices used to funnel money to Christian Filth or Firth or whatever his name is, right? That's also a yes or no question. That requires an investigation. Was this a case of corruption? That's a yes or a no question. And if it was, why were the contracts awarded? Where did the money go and what did it do? Did the government know this was corruption? Did Trudeau know about or participate in this corruption? And he must have at this point for it to be that blatant and that pervasive for $60 million for $100,000 app. Absolutely insane. And who's responsible for investigating this, right? If we're going to say that like corruption is bad, do we not have any checks and balances that says, hey, there's corruption over there. Let's stop it and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Who's responsible for that? Because obviously the RCMP aren't going to do it. So are they compromised? That's a yes or a no question, right? And will there be a fair trial, if at all? That's probably a no, because they're able to shut down any investigation that's come so far and remove themselves from accountability. And this is the thing. This is the ultimate thing. And let me just finish this. I'll finish off that. And what's going to be done about this to prevent this from happening in the future if they did engage in corruption, right? And the thing that pisses me off most about our system is that you have a bunch of people that gave themselves a raise, that gave themselves power, and have insulated themselves from any and all accountability. That is not a democracy. That is a banana republic, right? And we've come to the point now that if this doesn't change, we're going to lose our country, our lives, our family, our future, right? And so this perfectly illustrates the systematic problems with the apparatus of our government, right? And so when I go back and talk about this, I always go back to we better get an upgrade to this. If Pierre's going to be our next PM, he's not getting in there unless he's going to um, commit to upgrading this garbage democracy that we have. And I'm more than happy to stand in front of him and tell him so. More than happy to do that because if nobody else is going to do it, fine, I will. I don't care anymore, right? But the ultimate point here is that if we don't have a connection to the people that represent us, they don't. It's literally that simple. A representative democracy means that there's somebody that's supposed to represent you. And if they don't represent you, they should be removed immediately. Right. And so I think that we should have a national referendum on firing Trudeau immediately for the abject corruption, the blatant stupidity, the unbelievable amounts of incompetence and corruption that he's participated in and facilitated in the last 8 years.
Well, I think that there's a snowball's hope in hell of getting a referendum to get Trudeau out in any capacity. But I do like the idea of planting seeds of specific questions. We need to start holding these people, these people that want office need to be answering the right questions before they get office.
Yeah,
This whole
100%.
process of we got to do whatever we can, whatever it takes, just get Trudeau out. Only Pierre, I don't buy into that philosophy.
Me neither, and I'm a
I don't.
card-carrying conservative now. But this is why I joined the party, is that I'm not just going to be clapping like a clown for the next fool that's going to be replacing the old fool. No, I want an upgrade to our system, and one corrupt idiot replaced for another one isn't acceptable anymore. That shit has got to end immediately.
I give you kudos for that, diving into the deep end of the swamp to try and change the message from the inside out. That's where
Yep.
we operate in different environments, and although we don't agree on everything, at least we can come together and have discussion. And
Yep.
these are the things that we need to move forward. Because honestly, I give absolutely no amount of energy to trying to change the political parties or from the inside. No, they don't get a second of my time, but I will, however, light the fire from the other side of the coin, from the public space under their feet in any capacity I can, and throw gas on the fire from then the difference being is you're debating when you're within the party. You're having a discussion with the leadership. You've agreed to a certain amount of rules. I don't agreed to anything, and in my opinion, all 338 of them need to be jailed for the crimes that they have, just by omission or obfuscation taken part in, because at this point nobody can make me believe that any one of the 338 is unaware of crimes being committed by the parties or
Hmm.
by the current government, in some capacity. I don't think there's a single one of them that would pass a polygraph test to that effect. And maybe that's where we need to start, is with a contract between our electorate and their candidate. Will you take a polygraph test before you get my vote?
Yeah. And
Pretty fair,
and
isn't
and
it?
and this kind of goes back to my point about being connected to the constituents. Like every single one of those people should have to face their constituents every single month and go back to them. Hey, you made a decision on this. You better not be making this decision on this thing coming up. Like if those idiots on the left and the liberals had to face their constituents on a regular basis, be like, yo, why are we getting carbon tax, bro? My housing has doubled and my food has doubled. Like, what are you doing? Like there's so many people that would be furious and they know that they could never stand up to that. And this is why our system is so broken, because you're like, hey, homeboy, like put me in for you and I got your back covered. And then I never talked to you until 4 years later when I need your vote again. What an absolute stupid system. Like this shit is from 150 years ago, right?
It,
In the last, what are we talking here? So like, we're talking 35 years basically we've had the internet. 35 years we've had the internet. Every single person has a smartphone, which is instant communication through the internet to almost anybody else. We have Twitter now that you can talk to anybody like that. And not a single politician in any country on this planet has been like, hey, I wonder how we can get more involvement from our constituents and do better for them and represent them better. Not one single politician has ever even attempted to ask or have that conversation.
the only thing they're
Bullshit.
interested in is protecting their crime syndicates. That's the
Yeah.
only thing they're prepared for. They
Had
have.
enough, bro. We've had enough.
Well, and that's why we do this, is to get the people thinking, and inspiring thoughts and ideas as to how we can get better at it. And I'm seeing a lot coming on the cusp of things that we can do. I would rather use tools than violence. And if we don't use tools while we can, then sooner or later the only thing left will be violence. So I think that's where we're doing the best work, and it's coming apart on them. uh, you know, even the useful idiots sooner or later figure out, wait a minute, the jig might be up here. I have to live in this community, and these candy bandits ain't going to be around for long. Um, the whole anybody that believed or in Trudeau may as well have been Zelensky, and is going to get left hung out to dry on that. So the
Well, we
rats
all
are
are.
fleeing the ship. And the question at this point remains, is it's going to come apart. How
Yeah.
much damage are we going to let them carry on doing
Yeah.
before we just do what needs doing, and create the voting blocks, make the changes, replace the parties, get the independents, the ones that actually represent, and move to an establishment of an upgraded set of systems that we can all live comfortably within, that aren't stealing from us. So, I mean,
Yeah.
wishful thinking, but I'm a lot more convinced that we have a hope now than I was a year ago, or 5 years ago, to be honest with you.
Well, I am too, but only to a degree because they like the powers that be are just as aware of all of this stuff as we are, right? You got to remember that, right? They have the most power, the most money, the most resources, the most skills, and the most control, most importantly, than in any time in human history, right? And our economy and our logistical systems and all of the things that function that allow civilization to function as it does is a very brittle system. It literally lives on a knife edge at any time. If
Right.
you blow up a pipeline or like something happens with the electricity grid, like it's chaos almost overnight, right? And so they know this as much as we do, right? And so this is why I tell people is that you have to prepare for not only the worst case scenario because that's coming at some point, but you also have to prepare in the sense that we're trying to save civilization. I don't want to live in the medieval times and go back to the Stone Age where I gotta break my back having a farm just to live out the rest of my life. I'm not down with that, bro. I don't want to live in that world. I want to live in a world where we're going into space. We don't have to kill each other to survive. But
That's
to do that, we got to work together and we got to kick these idiots out
that's
first.
the people that are trying to pull the carpet, the legs out from underneath of us with that monopoly system, and why
Yeah.
precious metals
Oh,
are so critical to moving forward, whether
yeah.
we like it or not. That's what the rest of the world is doing. They're fixing their shit, backing it with real metals, real commodities, and they are going to continue with this fiat system to bleed us dry
Yeah.
until there's nothing left to get, and then it all crashes, and then they think that they'll cover it up and they'll engage in that hard currency system, and we won't be allowed to. So
Yeah.
f that, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Could I
that's
just pull up one more? I know we're wrapping up for the day, but could we just pull up one more comment? Don Recordman, Brazil is dealing with some serious problems right now because I want to touch on this because this is actually I forgot to mention this earlier. So just to give everybody an overview of what's possible, right? If we don't stop this, because we already know what's possible, but I just want to give this as from another country perspective rather than just Canada. So what happened in Brazil, really quick, is there was a judge, just one that basically has ungodly amounts of control, was basically doing really foul stuff behind the scenes. Elon Musk basically exposed him last week. I saved the thread from him. But basically what he did is he pulled Lula da Silva out of jail for corruption, put him into the election, stole the election. There was irregularities. It was 100% stolen election, 100%, not a
Mhm.
doubt in my mind. And now Lula is putting in a whole bunch of communistic policies and oppressing the people of Brazil. My girlfriend's Brazilian. I really feel for her family down there, right? And this is what is possible if you don't have a system that has checks and balances on people with power. You cannot have an effective system and people live in peace when you have some people that have what's the word, not abject, overwhelming power over other people, and they get to decide what other people can do. And that's where we're going, where when central bank digital currencies and digital IDs and microchips and 50-minute cities get instituted, you will have these people that are already destroying our lives have absolute control over every single aspect of your life. And so I can't stress this enough, is that you have to do something. You have to be loud, you have to take action, and you have to protect yourself and your family, because if you don't, nobody else will. And that's where I'll leave it.
100%. I think that we were given a rare opportunity. The only reason we're in this fight now, the only reason everybody is aware of everything now, is because Trump disrupted the plan in
Yeah,
2016.
100%.
That's
It's
what
true.
triggered. It was Trump's election and the Brexit vote that triggered the problem and the succession of problems, the societal warfare that they've engaged in since then, and they were counting on being able to subdue us all, and it has failed so far. And we are an unruly bunch, and we're just getting better as they are getting weaker. So we'll wrap it up there. We could go on in about the insanity for an extra long for hours and hours, I'm sure, Bryce. But we've got a new closing commercial to again let people know what they can do and why, and we'll see what the world throws at us by this time next week, guys. So make
Heavy.
sure again, like, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, guys, and we'll see you here next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.
In times of global instability, soaring inflation and massive debt, gold and silver have proven to be unshakable pillars of wealth. New World Precious Metals, based in Calgary, Canada, is a leading international brokerage. We offer an easy, secure, and cost-effective platform for investing in gold and silver, including our international wholesale program and registered retirement savings accounts. Protect your money outside traditional banking with our physical precious metals, privately vaulted outside the banking system, at secure, insured exchanges worldwide. Gold and silver have been trusted assets for generations, with current projections indicating high returns. And with unprecedented demand from governments, banks, and investors, there are now shortages. Precious metals thrive during inflation, geopolitical instability, and currency devaluation. Sound familiar? Now is the time to invest in gold and silver, whether in your international investment account or by transferring registered retirement savings accounts. Experience the security of physical precious metals, combining the safety of physical assets with the flexibility of being like your own bank, offering instant liquidity and a financed line of credit. With precious metals on the rise, don't miss this generational opportunity to protect your wealth. At New World Precious Metals, we ensure your wealth meets its potential. Contact us today and our personal brokers will guide you every step of the way.